27 people attended my funeral. At least 5 of them genuinely wished I were dead. Wearing a carefully prepared wig and sunglasses, dressed in a second-hand coat that was completely unlike my usual style, I blended into the crowd of mourners. Like a ghost observing my own death, listening to my nephew Richard, in an exaggerated, tearful tone, talk about how much he would miss his beloved Uncle Alexander. Just 48 hours ago, I had heard with my own ears through a wiretap how he tried to convince my personal lawyer, Mr. Peterson, that I was mentally unstable in my later years, that signed documents might be invalid, and that he, as the only close relative, should take over my company and all my assets. The absurdity of it all felt like a cold, ironic joke. This was the most extreme, most expensive, and perhaps most necessary social experiment I had ever conducted in my life. The prelude to all this began 3 months ago, with that sudden diagnosis. Me, Alexander Graham, 65 years old, a self-made man who built a business empire worth hundreds of millions, seen by others as a success story at the top of the pyramid. But I had no children. My true love, my wife Isabella, was taken from me 20 years ago by a relentless cancer. Since then, a large part of my heart had been empty, filled only with work and wealth. The diagnosis was an extremely rare genetic heart condition. The doctor told me in a calm, professional tone that my heart function was irreversibly declining, and in an ideal scenario, I might have about a year left. "Please arrange your affairs promptly," was his final, well-meaning advice. Those words were like a cold key, unlocking a Pandora's box filled with greed and hypocrisy. The first to behave abnormally was my nephew Richard. He is the son of my deceased brother, and legally, my closest living relative. He was originally a shiftless playboy who knew only how to spend his trust fund, barely visiting me once a year. But shortly after I received the diagnosis, he suddenly became unusually attentive. He started visiting me every week, bringing his flawed, flashy business plans, claiming to seek my advice. But it was just a polite way of asking for money. The detachment in his eyes was gone, replaced by a burning, almost undisguised anticipation. "Uncle, you are the family's only pillar. Your experience and wisdom are my most valuable assets," he would say, but it only made me nauseous. Next was my business partner, Victor Lancaster. We co-founded this company through 30 years of ups and downs. I once considered him the person I trusted most. After Isabella, he began subtly proposing updates to his equity agreement and retirement security plan during board meetings. He spoke in a tone full of concern about the importance of a smooth leadership transition for the company's future, hinting that without me, the anchor, the company might fall into turmoil. His proposals sounded reasonable, all for the company's long-term development, but I detected a hint of eagerness to demarcate interests and secure his own position. He even started bypassing me, privately contacting several key executives, actions quietly reported to me by my loyal assistant. The most chilling was the behavior of my personal lawyer, Mr. Lawrence Peterson. He had served me for over 25 years, handling all my legal affairs, including my yet-to-be-finalized will. He was always steady, professional, never overstepping. But recently, he frequently, almost urgently, brought up the topics of drafting the will and setting up a family trust. "Alexander, time waits for no one. We must ensure your wishes are executed most accurately and impeccably," he'd say. His eyes held a never-before-seen, almost greedy eagerness, often inadvertently glancing at the heavy safe in my study. I felt an unprecedented suffocation. It was as if I weren't even dead yet, but the vultures around me were already circling my still warm body, calculating where to peck first. They cared not for how long I had left, nor for my suffering, but for how much they could get after I was gone. During one sleepless night after another, staring at the ceiling, a crazy, clear plan gradually formed in my mind. What if I really died? What if I had the chance, like a true ghost, to see with my own eyes what would truly happen to everything I had built? My company, my wealth, my reputation, after my death. Who would shed a single sincere tear for me? Who would be to open my safe? Who would engage in ugly struggles before my body was even cold? Once this thought took hold, it became uncontrollable. It grew like weeds in my heart. I contacted the only person I could entrust with my life and reputation completely. My primary physician, Dr. Benjamin Carter. We've known each other for over 30 years. He once saved me from a severe myocardial infarction. He literally saved my life. More importantly, he had no connections to my business or social circles. He was a pure healer and my only true friend. When I calmly laid out my fake death plan to him in his private clinic, behind closed doors, he jumped up from his chair in shock. "Alexander, "You are absolutely insane," he whispered, his face full of disbelief. "This is illegal. Forging a death certificate is a felony, and it's far too dangerous. If it gets out, your reputation will be ruined." "Ben," I looked at him with a weariness and determination I'd never felt before. "My reputation? I'll be dead soon. What do I care about reputation? My time is short. Compared to living a few more months surrounded by lies and hypocrisy, I'd rather know the truth. This is my final and most important wish. I need to know how many masks have surrounded me all my life." We argued for a long time. Finally, faced with my near-stubborn insistence and a sense of despair that seemed to see through everything, Dr. Benjamin, this always rigorous and upright man, nodded in agreement amidst great unease and struggle. "God will forgive me," he muttered, "or he won't. But for you, Alexander, I'm willing to take this risk." The following weeks, we planned my death like a precise surgical operation. Dr. Benjamin used his professional knowledge and connections to extremely cautiously forge my death certificate. The cause was sudden cardiac arrest, perfectly consistent with my known condition. We chose a Friday evening to announce my death. We believed a weekend would be enough for those with ulterior motives to let their guard down and reveal their true colors. My remains were secretly placed in an absolutely private room at a high-end funeral home I had long collaborated with. This room had actually been converted by Benjamin into a safe room with comprehensive surveillance and listening equipment. And I, after taking a drug that induced a deep, dormant state with vital signs too faint to easily detect, was secretly transported there. When I woke up again, I was observing everything outside through over a dozen HD screens, like a detached god looking down on a farcical human drama. The first to receive the formal call from Dr. Benjamin was my nephew Richard. His first reaction was a silence lasting over 10 seconds. Then his first question was, "When did it happen? Has Mr. Peterson been notified?" My uncle's will. "Did he leave any special instructions at the end?" His voice held no trace of sorrow or shock, only urgent concern for the subsequent legal procedures and distribution of assets. Less than half an hour after hanging up, I wiretapped him, immediately calling my partner, Victor. His tone was barely contained excitement. "Victor, you heard? The old man's finally gone. Sooner than we expected. We need to move fast. Must control the board before the other directors react. You're good on your end, right?" Victor's reaction was more direct and cold. I even heard a slight relieved chuckle through the receiver. "Finally. Saves us a lot of trouble. Proceed as planned. You contact Peterson immediately. Make sure the will he has is the latest version. Understand? I'll handle the wavering shareholders on my end." "Latest version?" My heart sank like a stone into an icy abyss. I last modified my will a year ago. Since then, due to my illness and disillusionment, I hadn't touched it. How could there be a latest version with Peterson? This lawyer who served me for 25 years, whom I considered a confidant, had apparently already chosen his side, perhaps even actively participated in the plan to divide my estate. The next 2 days, the funeral arrangements themselves were a thorough display of ugly performance. Richard and Victor argued over who should chair the funeral committee, who should deliver the main eulogy. Richard insisted on the cheapest funeral package, shamelessly claiming the savings could be counted as preliminary estate management fees. Victor, however, insisted on an extremely lavish and grand affair. Under the banner of maintaining the company's public image and stock stability, he insisted all costs be paid from the company account, as if using my money to burnish his own image. Watching them on the monitor like two hyenas fighting over carrion, bickering incessantly over my legacy, made me nauseous and filled with a bone-deep sadness. Yet in this swamp of greed, a few pure lotus flowers occasionally emerged, bringing a faint warmth to my nearly frozen heart. My old gardener, Joseph, a man from Eastern Europe, quiet as a stone. He had worked for me for nearly 20 years, tending to every rose Isabella had planted in the estate. When the butler told him the news, he was trimming branches in the glass greenhouse.